Well, hello everybody. Welcome to G Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. Here we are on the 28th of July, about 7:30 in the evening, and it's finally cooled down to 95. I saw 107 out here today, so it got pretty warm, and that makes for, well, I don't want to do a heck of a lot. Don't want to be climbing up on roofs in that type of temperature. So I decided to do a few other things, and one of the things that I decided to do, and you can see the winds are up right now also, but one of the things I decided to do was, because it was so cooled, I decided to put my new heater in and test it out. Now, I bought this one on eBay. It's a really nice new heater. This is 20,000 BTU. The old one I had was 10,000 BTU. And on the really cold nights in the wintertime when it would get down in the low 20s, the other one would be running, trying to keep up. Well, this one will run shorter periods of time because it puts out more heat. And you're going to say, well, it's going to use more propane. Yes and no. I figure it's going to use about the same propane. It's just going to heat things up faster so it runs less time. So that's a better option. And this one's really nice. It's got a nice blue flame look to it, and it really I had to kick it over and try it because it's got a 30-day free return thing, and I had to try it out. So I fired it up, and boy, this thing really puts out some heat. I'm telling you, it's really nice and pretty to look at too. So anyway, you see here it says guide be used by a qualified gas technician. You've got to be a qualified gas technician to install these things, because there are some things people just won't understand, like the size line that comes from the gas line to the unit. Well, you need at least a 1/2 inch input line, and I have that. I prepped that when I built the place. And then this has to be a 1/2 inch line coming to it. The old 10,000 BTU one that I had in before only required a 3/8 line, but I couldn't use a 3/8 on here because it needs more volume of fuel to get a full burner going, and if you don't have that going, it's going to malfunction the unit. So I did get this up. Another nice thing I like about this one is the instructions come hooked to a cable to the back of the unit, and they just hang down in behind there, and it's zero clearance behind it, so you don't have to worry about it getting the wall too hot and causing a fire there. But I do have to move this shelf because there's not supposed to be anything above it within 3 feet. So I don't know if I'm going to just cut this shelf down a little shorter and keep it here or what, but I do have to do a little modification on that. And I've got a while before I'll be using the heater, so I can do that down the line. All right, another thing I did was I went to Harbor Freight today, because today was the last day of their 25% off coupon for friends and family coupon. And I decided I was going to go get me another 3/4 inch by 100-foot garden hose. This is a commercial grade. It's a heavy duty one. I already have one coming down from my water tank, but it only gets right to behind the cabin. And then I had to continue it with an old 5/8 hose I have. Well, I still get water transferred down from the blue barrels down to my garden house, but it reduces when it gets to the 5/8, so I get more pressure out the end of the hose, but I get less volume, and it takes longer to refill my totes and stuff down there. So I decided I was going to get another 3/4 and just run 3/4 inch all the way and not have a problem. I also stopped at the dollar store to pick up a few items, and I noticed they had this 3-ply hose. It's a 5/8 by 40 foot. And this was only $10. With the coupons, this one was only $27, and I picked up 2 of the adapters, a male and female, because I'm going to cut this one down. I need a new 12-footer to go off of my water transfer pump that I keep in the van here for the output side, so that I can reach up to my water tank, and when I transfer water that I get from friends and so forth and so on, I can just leave the pump right in the van because I do have solar panels on top of the van, and that all runs on solar. And I can transfer my water with it. The hose I have is old. It was an old piece of hose, and it has all kinds of cracks, and the outside is peeling off of it. It's ready to fall apart. So I decided I needed a new one. So I'm going to cut this one. This is a 40-footer. I'm going to cut this one so I have 12 foot to go to my pump, and then the remainder part of it, I'll add the other end on there, and I'm going to put it in the garden house, because right now I only have one garden hose coming off of those two totes, even though I have a splitter on there so I can have two, but I didn't have a hose for it. But right now I have to drag the hose that I have through the garden to get to the other far corner, and then I always knock over plants and stuff with it like that, so I just don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to put two hoses. The one I got is a short one. That'll be for this side of the garden. And then this one will be the rest of the 12 foot from 40 feet. And that'll go around the floor to the other side of the garden house, so I can have a garden hose on either side without having to cut the garden hose through the center of my garden. Because now that my corn is coming up, I don't want to be knocking over corn stalks while I'm trying to water or spot water. When I do the main watering, I use the overhead sprinklers, but sometimes I just have to spot water for plants like peppers that use more water than the other plants. Yes, peppers do use a lot of water. But yeah, I want to get my spot watering in between on my pepper plants, so I use those hoses to do that. All right. Another thing I found, my solar panels here, these are going to end up on top of the new container room, but I'm utilizing them right now. Why not get the extra 100 watts of power sent into my battery room, right? So I got them set up here temporarily, and if I go out anywhere, I just put them away. But I found something neat. The racks that they have on the back of them to stand them up, right now I've got them facing the west sky so that the late sun was hitting them. And I did that right after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when the sun was no longer hitting them directly. But you can see the blue lights are on the bottom, so even in the shade they're still producing. And I was going to show you, but I'd have to come out at night and do a separate video. But I can come out here with one of those little Harbor Freight LED flashlights, and all the blue lights will be out because it's dark out at night. And turn on that LED flashlight and just shine it at each one of the panels, and as I do, the blue lights come on. These amorphous panels are amazing. So anyway, I was saying the racks right now, these are actually upside down. So instead of having to pick this thing up and rotate it around like I was doing, now all I do is I just come over and I just teeter-totter it like this. Let me get this in place. Just like that. So now I've got it facing for the morning sun. So when I get up in the morning, this will be picking up the early morning sunlight and producing electricity into my batteries. An extra 100 watts. Pretty cool, huh? So that's a pretty neat little setup. I don't like these little metal brackets though. They're flimsy, and I'm afraid I'm going to break the frames on these things. So what I will do is the next time I go into town is I'm going to pick up a 2x3x8, and I'll cut it in half, 2 4-foot pieces. I'll take those out of there, and I'll shoot screws starting at this hole and every hole along. I'll shoot screws right down into the 2x3 to give it a nice sturdy straight bar going all the way across instead of just these little hinge pieces, because I'm afraid that position right there is a weak point. I don't like that. So, and also when I flip it down the other way, these wires won't be pressed into the dirt because it'll have the 2x3 spacer to keep the wires up out of the dirt. Pretty cool. All right, that's about it. I'm gonna go in and start my dinner. I'm gonna have lamb chops tonight with mashed potatoes, gravy, carrots, and green beans. So I got to get that all put together here because it is getting late, and I'll see if I can get some work done tomorrow if it cools down. It's supposed to cool down later in the week, but who knows? G-Bear reminding you, give me a thumbs up down there, please. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to share with your friends. And if there's anything you need to see or want to talk about, let me know, and I'll be glad to get a video going about it. Or I'll just respond to your comment if it's a simple question. G-Bear signing off.